Hi, everyone, and welcome to the fourth edition of Home Buyers Connect series, education-based webinar format for the home buyer to educate a home buyer. Today, I have Mr. Jesal Sanghvi with me. He's the co-founder of HomeXchange. Hi, Jesal. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hi Shivam, how are you?
Fine, fine. How are you doing?
Good, good. Thank you for having me over.
It's our pleasure. It's actually a privilege that you are here to share so many insights on, how to upgrade a home, since that is one of the most important aspects of be in, let's say, Mumbai or Bangalore, but I'm not able to basically upgrade because with the rising property costs and at the same time the rise in preference and better amenities. This is a very frequently asked question now. So thank you so
Right.
much for joining us today. Obviously, my first question would be, what are the typical challenges of upgrading a home in a city like Mumbai or Bangalore? I mean, what is the primary hurdle that people usually face?
See, Shivam, we are living in a post-pandemic world, right? So people's preferences have changed, and many people are trying to upgrade. But even if we don't take into account, the pandemic and its occurrence, changing your home, selling your current home in order to buy a new one has always been a challenge, right? In the big cities or small cities, and it's not just a problem for middle income families, it's a problem for upper middle income families, it's a problem for anyone who's trying to make that upgrade, right? It is a challenge because while a primary market, which is the new home sale market, has gotten far more organized, you have a business that is a developer that is selling a home to a customer, so it's almost like a B2C business. The resale home market or the secondary sale market of an existing home is essentially a customer to customer business, right? There is no institutional involvement there. And then on top of that, we have a market that is quite old, and there is a lot of fragmentation in the industry, right? We have multiple number of brokers in every market, and they do their best, but it has been a challenge because all three sides are not that institutional, right? And so what that means is when you're trying to sell a home in a city, it takes a very long time, right? You have to wait at least 6 to 8 months before you can actually sell that home, and that uncertainty does not allow you to buy the new home, right? So that is the biggest challenge. So what happens is, why are you trying to sell your existing home? You're trying to sell your existing home because a lot of your equity or your liquidity is in that home, which will allow you, once you sell it and take the funds out, to buy the new home, right? And that, for that reason, people can't make the new home decision until the old home is sold, and that challenge is what has been persistent, whether it's post pandemic world or pre pandemic world, right? I think that will continue to be a problem, right? Why do you need to sell your existing home? You need it for liquidity. You also need it because when you sell an existing home, you have capital gains that comes out of it, right? And typically you can deploy it only for towards another asset, and that allows you to not pay taxes if you've had capital gains on your existing home. So those are all the reasons why you need it becomes a challenge. You have a lot of people coming to see your home, you don't know what price you're going to get eventually. There is no institutional source of getting educated as to what is the value of my home and am I being practical about it. And that all results in a trial and error method that takes 6, 8, 9, it could take 12 months, right? Until then your new home decision is on the back seat, or the it's just you're just waiting for the old home to sell. Now what happens in that meantime is that your new home that you desired may not be available. Let's say you go to a building 12 months while you're thinking about selling an old home. You like a flat. Now you go back and try and sell your existing home. And by the time you come back in 6, 8, 9 months, that home may be gone. Or it may be more expensive, right? So people have a very challenging journey when they're trying to sell something and buy something. And that has been a point of friction in our industry, given the very fragmented nature of it.
Right, right, right. So moving on to the second question would be, what are my financing options for a smooth transition while upgrading? Because I already have, let's say I have a current 2 BHK house which is worth 1.5 crore, and I'm looking to upgrade to a 3 or 4 BHK with a rising family and more amenities with more amenities and a better location which is closer to my
Right.
workplace. So in such a case, the escalation in cost for the new home can be easily right from 75% to maybe even 100%, 150%. So in
Right.
such a case, what is the best route to choose in terms of financing?
See, ideally, and I'll give you what people typically end up doing, right? Let's say you have your existing home that is worth, let's say, 1 crore, right? And now you have enough funds over and above, you know what approximately is the value of your existing home, and you have enough funds to maybe buy the new home worth 2 crores or 2.5 crores. But till you don't sell your old home, you're not going to able to buy the new home. Let's say if you're buying a ready new home, right? But there are other options available in the market, right? People can, for example, take a home loan on the new home, provided they have the eligibility, that to get up to a loan up to, let's say, 70% of the new home value, or 50% or 60%, whatever that is, right? Many people may not have that eligibility, or they may have a home loan on their existing house, which means they have to unlock that loan first and then be able to take a loan on the new one. So those are some of the challenges that people face on that route of financing. The other thing is, for example, if your current home is, there's no loan on it yet, and you're not being able to sell it, you could always take a loan against property. Now you'll take a loan against property and then put that proceeds into the acquisition of a new home, and then you'll continue your journey of trying to sell the existing home over the next 6 8 months, right? But in both these scenarios that I talked about, right, ultimately the two things that are for sure is, that one, you have to pay a cost of capital, whether you take a lap or you take a home loan, and that could be for whatever duration your existing home does not sell, right? So it doesn't come free. There is a cost element involved in taking a home loan or a loan against property, in whichever property you leverage it towards, which is whether it's your old home or whether it's your new home. The second aspect is that it doesn't take away the hassles involved in selling your existing home, the same pain that you have to go through. It may take 6 8 months. You have to get a lot of brokers involved. You have to show it to a lot of people, and that hassle can become a huge pressure once you've already bought your new home and then you are running fast to try and sell your existing home, right? So those are the two options that traditionally people would have used, right? In case some people are quite aware of what their home values are, and are quite aware of what the new home purchase means to them, so they will take that call, but it doesn't come free to them. They have to pay a cost of capital somewhere. Now, third option is, if you could time the sale of your new old home perfectly with the purchase of your new home, right? And that is, a dream for many. But unfortunately, you can wish it, but selling an old home is a flip of the coin. It could or could not go, however hard you try, right? So it does require the 4 to 5 month period of marketing, etc. So that seamless upgrade by selling your old home, which unlocks funds to finance the acquisition of a new home, is not a traditional product, right? But that is what the home exchange offering is, when we give a guaranteed price on your existing home instantly in 5 days, give you liquidity once you accept our offer, and allow you to upgrade to a new home, right? And that is the seamlessness of the home exchange product, which is the first time unique offering in this market, right? So we are a sort of a financing mechanism, in the sense that we give you a guaranteed offer on your old home and liquidity that allows you to finance the acquisition once those funds are unlocked of your new home, and you can go and book your new home with confidence and certainty.
Right. So, on similarly, on another follow-up question, what are the trends that you are currently observing when it comes to upgrading a home? Because amid the pandemic, we saw a radical change in people's requirement, right? Earlier, everyone used to focus on something like I need a balcony, or I need a larger living room, or I need a more convenient space to have a huge TV. But now everything has changed in a way that now that we have a hybrid working model, a lot of people are staying home, avoiding the harsh commute that we have in our tier one cities. So, in taking that as an example, what are the new services that are most sought today?
Sure. I think pandemic changed things from multiple perspectives, right? One perspective is that there was a real need. Everyone was working from home. We've gone to customers' home where, there are two rooms. There's a working professional and his wife. Both of them are working. They have children. They have parents, right? And the children and the parents and the husband and wife, everyone is living in the same house. I saw two laptops set up in the living room, and that is not an ideal scenario. So there was a there was a clear need that came out of the pandemic because of the circumstances. Whether that's a long-term trend or not, whether companies call a lot of the people home, whether to offices, or whether people choose to continue to work in the hybrid model, time will tell. But that definitely created a need for people to say, I need extra space. I need that one extra room in my house so that in an event, a situation like this arises again, I need that extra space for to be able to work, for my children to be able to participate in virtual school and all of that, right? That was one aspect of it. The other aspect of it was people started living in the moment. They said, hey, we've been in this house and we need quality of life, we need community, we need health, we need leisure, all in the space that I and the broader space that I live in. So the preferences moved out of aspiration that I want to live today and not for the future, to be in buildings and communities which have very good amenities. They have, very good, health club. You don't have to go outside. You have a good community. In 3 months of lockdown, people had only the community to sustain their own social needs, right? So we have seen that preference shift, definitely post COVID. And people don't want to forego the decisions to be able to living in a larger house to the future, or buildings with amenities, right? Having said that, for everyone at any step, if someone lives in a one room kitchen, a one bedroom is an upgrade. If someone lives in a one room kitchen, a one and a half may be an upgrade that gives you to that extra half room. So it is not a well defined, but definitely we saw that the size at every level of purchase, the sizes increase in terms of what they were buying. Alternatively, we've seen customers who lived in standalone buildings in a one bedroom kitchen, right? But they didn't have the budget to necessarily go very high to buy a two bedroom, but they wanted to be in a community which had some amenities, right? So they were shifting out from a very old standalone one bedroom kitchen building to another one bedroom, but in a more modern building with some amenities, right? So upgrade is relative as to what you are seeking, right? So we've seen all kinds of, but definitely there has been a shift in terms of preferences to improve their quality of life, one out of aspiration, and two out of the need, which is to be able to efficiently work from home, or to be able to give that extra space to the kids to do virtual school, right? And that has been the key change in the post COVID, in the post COVID world, right?
Right, right. So another question that I have is, when we're upgrading our home, it also means that we have to sell the old house and buy a new one. So how do you navigate the capital gains tax that is, a huge overhead on you?
Right. No, absolutely, Shivam. I think historically we've seen people. There are two, three challenges to this, as we answered in the first question as well. One is the process itself is painful, which we talked about when we started the discussion, right? Two is this has real implications on your finances, right? Let's say if you bought a new home, right? And now you're trying to sell your existing home. Let's say you took a loan against property, right? For your existing home, or you took a home loan on the new one until such time that your existing home gets sold. Now the clock is ticking, in that situation, because if you bought a new home, you can take benefit of selling an existing home where there might be capital gains only up to 1 year prior, right? So let's say you now spend 7 to 8 months and you're trying to sell your home and you're not getting a buyer, right? I think there are two, three issues there. One is obviously now you're in a lot of pressure to make sure that you sell it, and then you will sell it at some price that you may not even understand. The other thing is that you may continue to think that your price is something else, and you will come close to your target 12-month period, and you think you have a deal, and sometimes the deals fall through, etc., and you may completely miss, adjusting your capital gains against a new acquisition. So those are the kind of challenges. So the ideal way to do it is really to have a complete, whether you are using a home exchange service or not, which makes it much easier in life, but to have a very thought through plan in terms of what is the value of your home. And we will come to that a little later. But once you understand the value of your home, how do I sell it, and have some work done on identification of a new home, right? So that you are not wasting time once you've sold a home to buy a new one, or you're not wasting time once you bought one to be able to successfully sell your existing home, even if it takes 6 to 8 months. And that is the way you actually manage your capital gains tax. And it has a financial, obviously, it has financial implications also, where you are taking a cost of borrowing, etc. And the longer you are not able to sell your old home, the more you are coming out of pocket on the cost of borrowing, either on the lap or the new home loan, right? So all of those things are real costs and real financial implications if you don't kind of think through this properly. Again, the beauty of the home exchange product is we make both journeys seamless. So once you transact with us, it actually addresses all the issues, because you don't have to take a home loan, or you don't have to wait till your home gets sold to for the liquidity. Also, your capital gains once you bought sold this one, we work within a very specified kind of a 4 to 6 month window. Everything comes together very beautifully. But outside of the home exchange product also, people have to think about those issues, because they have real implications on the finances and real implications on cost that they incur, right? Which a lot of people don't think about when they actually make decisions like that, because they may not be aware, and then it just suddenly comes onto them, and they have to make a decision in a hurry, right? So those are the things. And I think, especially when people are upgrading, you're upgrading from an existing home to a new home, and timing a market, just like in stock market, is almost a futile exercise. Similarly, the beauty of upgrading a home is that you are selling your existing home. Let's say the market is a down market, right? And the prices are not very high. Let's say post COVID, there was a correction in the market. And we met a lot of people, and they said, wow, my home was 2 crores prior to COVID, and you are offering me 1.7. The reality was there was a correction in the market. And they have to see that when they are selling their existing home cheap, they're also getting the new home cheap. Even the new homes were 10 or 15% corrected from the pre-COVID world, right? So when you're upgrading, you're really hedged, and if you can do it seamlessly, you're not exposed. We've seen customers who sold their home but could not identify the new homes in time. So by the time they've identified a new home, the prices of the new homes had gone up. So they sold their old home cheap, but they got the new home expensive, right? And that was not a good use of the money. What they sold, what they realized from selling their existing home. So all kinds of problems come when you're trying to upgrade. But our viewpoint is it's always better to kind of upgrade seamlessly, so it hedges your exposure. If you upgrade in a down market, you are buying the more expensive product at a cheaper cost. And let's say 6 months later you find a buyer at a slightly higher price on your old home, guaranteed the new home would have also gone up in price. So it really didn't make a big difference in your life, right? So anytime is a good time to upgrade, as you can do it, as long as you can do it seamlessly.
Understood. So another question I have is, well, how do you come to the fair value of a home? How is that calculated? Because in the home buyers market, if you actually look at it, everyone thinks that the place that they own is worth a lot more, while the house that they are buying should cost lesser. So, in
Right.
such a situation where you have the entire process of buying and selling involved, how do you come to a conclusive, fair value of the property?
Sure. I think that is a very loaded question. I'll tell you why, right? Because a home is also a very emotional asset, right? People have lived in it for 15, 20 years. They have seen prices. Let's say if you go back 15 years, the new buildings were not what they are being built today, right? So they were not that far from the, let's say if the building was built in 2005 and another building was built in 1995, they were not too far from uh, what the experience of the field will be. There were not that many communities with all the amenities available and very modern kind of facilities, etc., modern construction technologies. But what has happened in the last decade is that the construction technology has changed, the designs and layouts of these homes, the design and layout of these communities and the projects has changed to more modern levels, right? So there has been a shift in the prices of existing homes that are 20, 30 years old, and the new homes that are coming up, right? And so there, in some sense, there has been a re-rating in the market for product that is very old. Unless and until you are fantastically located in a one of its kind location in Mumbai, in a very exclusive building, it may still hold its value if it's 30 years back. So every 10 years, you will see a certain change in prices of products vis-a-vis each other in terms of how the market perceives it. And I think people have to have a realization and practical approach to what that fair value is. Um, COVID definitely also triggered certain re-ratings and adjustments in the market of product that is maybe 20 years old or 30 years old versus product that is um, you know uh, 5 years old or 3 years old or being built right now. Similarly, COVID also triggered change in preferences in locations, right? What were traditionally considered to be very, very desired locations in the scheme of Mumbai 20 years back, today that's not the case. Let's look at Nariman Point as an office market. The office market has shifted to BKC, and which means people's desire to live in closer to Nariman Point is not as strong as what it was 20 years back, and hence the prices there would not reflect the growth that prices you may see appreciation in Kandivali or Thane, right? So people have to be practical when they are looking at and trying to understand the value of the home at that point in time. You have to go and talk to three or four local market brokers, and do not forget to ask them how much time it will take to sell at what price point, because sometimes people will just tell you, oh, the last trade happened at X price, right? But that may have taken 2 years to realize that price, or maybe the asking price was much higher and it got corrected by 20% before it sold. Similarly, today we are in a world of technology and digital and information, right? So we have some very excellent resources that are allowing you to check official registration data of transactions. You have index tab by CRE matrix. You can even go to 99 acres and you can check registration data to assess what is the range in which homes are getting sold in your building, right? Don't just rely on what people have listed on online websites, because that's people's wish list. The real information is, where do the transactions actually take place. So once you've done this exercise with a little bit of, it doesn't require a lot of hard work, you will know what range your home can, within what range your price can be achieved, right? You also need to see how many transactions happen in your building, and if someone has listed a flat for sale, let's say 12 months prior, has it sold or not? Sometimes they're just sitting there. So that will tell you what is the demand for your building or your home if you were to put it out on the market today. So you have to be practical, you have to be realistic, and look at and try and understand what that fair value is, and then accordingly approach the market for the sale of that property. And that is the good deal, right? Because the good deal will never be 20% of what the market thinks is a fair value. Your wish list is something maybe from 3 years prior when the prices were what you think they should be today. Or It's just maybe you've spent a lot of money in your house, but the market may or may not give you that value if you invested significant amount of money in your fit outs and furnishings, right? Because people in the market have a lot of choices today. There are enough and more inventory on the resale as well as the new home side for people to look at when buying a new home. So you have to be realistic about all of those different demand and supply factors, and that will help you determine your fair value, right?
Right, right. So, as we have discussed, there are a lot of technological tools also available now when it comes to, helping determine the fair value of a house. Now, how further can we leverage the entire stack to make the journey even more smoother? I mean, where do you see this heading into the future?
I think we have seen significant growth in the prop tech space. I mean, for example, I mean, I took you through this case of you can look at registration data on CRE Matrix Index tab. You can look at it at 99 acres. Theoretically, you could even go to the government's website and pull down this data, right? They have made this as public information. So, that is one big information revolution because it is based on real transactions, right? Until now, someone would go to Magic Bricks and say, "Hey, let me see who is asking for what price for the home," but that never made a real price, right? The real price will be always what got transacted. Similarly, earlier you had a physical restriction in terms of how much could you walk around the whole market to see flats or new homes. And today, because especially post COVID, when we are forced to be in a house, in our homes, we've seen not just all these discovery platforms use better technology tools, but even developers creating pretty interesting 3D walkthroughs of their new homes, which allowed people to kind of look at all their options sitting from the comfort of their home on a laptop. And that has made the journey faster and efficient, right? So we are definitely seeing a change in the way people approach the process of buying and selling homes because of the revolution in prop tech, right? And that will only help us improve the transaction flow and making it more efficient, more transparent, and faster, right? And I think that is where Home Exchange is also building out its product. All these problem points that I spoke about of when you're upgrading and when you're selling your existing home and buying a new home is currently a 6, 8, 9, 12-month process with a lot of, one is the timeline, but two, it involves a lot of headache, it involves a lot of stress, and it involves a lot of hassles. And Home Exchange offering brings all of that together. We take that headache off you. We give you a price on your existing home. We give you liquidity. We allow you to book and purchase your new home. All of this seamlessly. But the beauty of our product is we actually also allow you to not give up the upside on your existing home, even though we've given you a guaranteed price. So if we find a buyer in the market within a 4 to 6 month period that offers a price higher than our price, we will gladly get him transacted with you directly, and we will take our funds back. But our product allows you to win in every way, right? It allows you to win if you discover a higher price in the market. It allows you to win to make an instant sale to us. It allows you to win in terms of liquidity so that you can book your new home. And I think that is the revolutionary aspect of our product, which is the first time product in the country.
Right. Actually, now that you said first time the only product available in the country, I just like to point out that even Home Capital's down payment assistance program is actually very unique and one of its kind. Since buying a house is a very long and tedious process, and in this case, your home loan covers only 75 to 80% of your actual transaction value. So the rest of it, we can help you bridge the gap. And the best part is that the service that we offer is entirely interest free, which really becomes a huge boon for the home buyer because why pay interest even for something like that when you can avoid it altogether.
Right. No, absolutely, Shivam. I'm familiar with the Home Capital product, and we will be working together with Home Capital in a lot of different situations. I mean, I have heard of it over 3 to 4 years, and it's the first of its evolutionary kind of product, right? And I think the reason home capital, which is a first of its kind, and I don't think anyone else has been able to replicate it yet as successfully, is because you understood the pain point. You've taken your technology and your product solution, and you built a product market fit that works with what the need of the market is, right? And that has been the beauty of home capital's product as well, where we know the young generation is spending a lot of money out of their earnings, so they do become eligible for a home loan out of the because of their earnings, but they may not have enough savings to put down the down payment. I mean, no one ever thought about it, and the reality is every time a transaction doesn't happen, for a developer too, there's a cost involved, right? I mean, it's a time value of money
Correct.
for their sale, which means there's something that is leaking out in the system. And if we can capture that, what leaks out, whether it's a home capital product or a home exchange product, on the back of technology, and spread it amongst all the ecosystem players, is when the magic is getting created. So you're absolutely right that, in that sense, these products are going to be the future of the market and how people transact and make their life better when they are actually buying a new home or selling an existing home, in our case, in order to buy a new home, right? So that is where the future is headed, and I think 10 years later we'll look back and say it has come a long way, right?
Right, right. So, Jaisal, I had one more question. Which markets are you seeing the most demand in terms of upgrades right now?
I think the need, we have not really uh, we've not really seen any market that doesn't exhibit that need for an upgrade. Most markets will always show, because that's natural progression. Let's say if you look at South Mumbai, which is traditionally was the most desired market, right? But as families grow, and there are next generations that come in, the existing inventory, especially when you look at the land sizes and the plot sizes in South Mumbai, is not sufficient to take care of the growing needs of the family, right? And the space that they require, the car parkings that you require. So even in a more expensive market like Middle and South Mumbai, you will find there's always a change happening. When you go to the suburbs, we are seeing so much economic development. Or when you go to a city like Bangalore, people are growing professionally. They are increasing the salaries. It's a two Even if one of the two members of the family has a sudden promotion, or there's startups that are making money and the salaries are going up, it's a natural progression that they want to give uh, a better quality of life to the family or themselves. Or if two brothers, their children, and their children are living in the same big house, it's time for them to move out and create more space. So that is a permanent kind of a thing. Change is the only permanent thing when you are looking at homes. There are people always upgrading and buying new homes, right? So, but definitely the need in terms of the net worth of people being held in real estate. As we all know, there's a popular data point that 70% of the net worth of middle income Indians lies in their real estate home or their asset, right? And that needs to be unlocked. So the need is definitely far more um, visible in middle income families, who absolutely have to unlock the value out of the existing home in order to be able to purchase a new one. As you go up the net worth slabs, you'll find that people may have extra liquidity to anyways make a purchase of another home without having to sell uh, their existing home. So the need, especially in middle income families, upper middle income families in both the cities. And by the way, we are only in Bangalore, and just like I'm sure your product in Bangalore and Mumbai, we are only in these two cities, but we get queries from all over the country. Unfortunately, we are not able to service them, right? We get queries from Delhi, Chennai, Hyderabad, Pune, even Calcutta and other cities, right? So, I mean, it's a need for everyone at every in every part of the city. The the middle income families of any of the cities do need this help at any given point in time.
Right, right. So, Jason, how do you see the mortgage industry and its impact on the, housing industry right now, considering the increase in home loan rates in the last 1 year?
Shivam, I always look at long-term trends, right? So when Home Capital is building this business, right, or when Home Exchange is building this business, and I've maintained that over 10, 12 years, that we have to look at where the ecosystem and the industry is growing over a long period, right? What matters most to customers, and it may have a temporary impact on the demand, as we've seen in the past. At any point in time, if the interest rates go up, but that doesn't stop people from buying homes, right? They may restructure some of their uh, acquisition. They may take a smaller loan, they may find other sources of capital to purchase the home, but the demand is more or less stable, and it just changes a little bit with changes in some of these factors. I've always maintained, and we saw that even post COVID, that India is a country of infinite demand at the right price, and as long as financing tools etc are available to them, right? So price has always been a bigger uh, price always has had a bigger impact on whether people buy or not buy homes. Interest rates in my mind have always come second. It may have a temporary impact or a slight blip, but it doesn't really change the demand on either side as much as price does. So let's say if price go up substantially, you see a much bigger impact on the purchase. But if price goes down, like it did post COVID or post the global crisis, we saw the demand just come through so strong, which we had not seen in the last 5 years, right? Similarly, post COVID, we've seen home sales to be so strong. Other factors also played, where the aspirations and the need for the extra room. But I think interest rates will not have a significant impact on the long term trend, because interest rates may come down next year, right? So people don't want to miss out on the opportunity of buying a home and waiting till interest rate come down, because the price may have changed then.
Right, right. And so another question I had was, what is the impact you have observed on the affordable side of the industry? Because, the tier one market is vastly different from what the tier two market requires. So, what are your observations here, and where do you see the trend lines going?
I think, I mean, while Home Exchange is not working in multiple cities, on outside of Mumbai, Thane, and Bangalore, we personally, I feel like affordable segment will continue to get the push. The challenges do remain in terms of how do you finance uh, people in the informal sector, and that becomes a big challenge for mainstream banks. But we've seen enough and more tools that have, or products that have come out, especially in the digital revolution, that have somehow managed to also bank people with informal incomes. We've also seen that digital payments have become a mainstay, and some of that kind of flow of uh, I would say currency would actually create more data to be able to um, provide credit stories around the non-banked and the more the lower income affordable categories. And I think that has been a huge challenge in the past. It is not an overnight story. It is linked to job creation. It is linked to uh, social infrastructure and mass transit development. And those are all our stories that are kind of tied at the hip with the affordable housing story, because it absolutely is not feasible to make very affordable homes in the middle of Mumbai city, which means you need to build them at the periphery. But you don't have to go all the way to Karjat. I'm sure there are smarter technologies. But as soon as you start kind of building transport networks, transit networks, job creation in those locations, is when you get a bigger boost to affordable segment, and that's how many other countries have grown, right? um, it is definitely not an overnight thing. It kind of grows with the infrastructure. uh, the biggest challenge, I think, has been financing some of the buyers of affordable homes, which has been, I think, on the focus for not just the government. It has also been in focus for a lot of lending institutions. So I'm sure they are working to kind of solve those problems, over the long period.
Right, right. So it just got me
And by
thinking
the way,
when we're
sorry, I mean,
talking.
Home Capital is also doing a great job on the side, because your down payment assistance is very popular with those kind of more affordable categories of products as well.
Right, right. So, basis of that only, I was coming to you was that in the upgrading process of buying and selling, where do you see banks or financial institutions playing a bigger role in terms of availability of liquidity and turning around the entire transition?
No, I think most of the banks and financial institutions work within certain frameworks, right? And I must applaud the financial setups here, which are governed by RBI, because I think discipline has been at the core of how they've been lending, at least in the retail sector, right? And while it may sometimes seem that that is a bottleneck, we should always be aware that if we should be giving loans to people within a framework where they are able to service them and not create more chaos, right? So I think between all the financial institutions and the Reserve Bank and the government, they definitely engage a lot on how to make financing available to the more affordable segments. But at the same time, it is their responsibility to land within a framework where these are viable loans, right? One is the financing side. The second is you have to create more employment, and you have to create more traction in the economy, where people are in a position to take these loans and service them, right? So it's a two-sided story in that sense. It's not just right. So, and I think that will definitely continue to improve through the growth story of India. And as the sector becomes more formalized, as we see digital payments becoming more and more formalized, 10 years later, you will definitely have a different penetration level of loans, right? Which traditionally has been on the lower side if you compare it to other world economies.
Right, right, right. So, since we were talking about the affordable housing sector, are we seeing have you seen any upgrades happening in that sector? I mean, how is it working out in the tier two or tier three areas right now? Since your in the home exchange is at the middle of it all, so I just wanted to know, since even in the tier two and tier three regions, houses are usually either too old or dilapidated, and in such a
Right.
case, there's a lot of scope for growth even over there, right?
Yes, absolutely. And I think as I told you, Shivam, we get queries from all cities. We get queries from places like Vasai. We get queries from places beyond Panvel, Neral, right? Unfortunately, we cannot service all of those locations because they are outside our operational zone until we grow much bigger, right? But the need is fundamental. And let's say if you are living in a 50-year-old house in Kalyan, you have the aspiration to uh, move into a better building with amenities, etc. The thing is, I think as a country as a whole, we will see a lot of redevelopment going on. So people don't necessarily need to sell that home. Maybe sometimes it's worthwhile to wait for that redevelopment, or at least keep that home and buy something new, so that they can extract the most value out of that 50-year-old home when it is actually redeveloped. But often people are looking for value. Either they have to make a decision to sell it at a price that makes sense for a 50-year-old home today, or wait for that redevelopment, right? So people are faced with those choices, and they're not easy choices, right? But at every level, other than an entry level home, which is the first price point that people get into, maybe out of the first job, or their 25 to 30-year-old professionals, and other segments, right? Other than that category, every time someone buys that first home, the next time they are looking to go to a bigger place, they have a need to sell the old home. So the need in the market is universal, in the market, across cities, across price points. Even at a 20 crore home, people want to sell it and then unlock that liquidity to buy a new home. So definitely, you're right that tier two, tier three locations also. I've had calls with folks in tier three locations who are saying, "Why don't you come to this city, and we will find you enough demand here, right?" So, but cities like Nagpur or Raipur as well.
Right, right. I think Jason, I am out of questions now.
No,
Is there
absolutely.
anything else you'd like to add or anything I skipped over?
Right. No, I think people, we as an ecosystem, Home Capital is doing a fantastic job at creating a addressing a need in the market that was always kind of known. People used to go and ask money into their extended relatives. I need to buy a home. Can you give me some help, right? Or and that used to be a slow process, right? And I think you guys have identified that there's a real need to bank the down payment. We are working on creating liquidity on the existing home side, helping people make decisions faster, right? And I think that's the need of the day. People sometimes miss the bigger picture, the joy of buying the new home, because they are so troubled by the challenges that they face on the old home. And these products are changing that landscape, right? But people have to make very efficient and have to kind of be practical about what their asset is and what they're trying to buy. And once they do that, it will be beneficial not just to them but for everyone who lives in their family, right? Other than it being beneficial to the ecosystem where developers make more sales and the churn improves. A market is always stronger when there's more churn, when there's more price points,
Correct.
right? Where the transparency on the price starts emerging when you see more transactions, right? And I think that helps people in the long run. That helps in creating more liquid assets, right? Even real estate can be liquid if you can actually make more efficient decisions, right?
Right,
So that's
right.
about it.
So I
You
have
can,
an audience question over here, and
yes.
that is, are you seeing a rise in renting versus buying? I mean, there has always been, a lot of these modern threads, right? That renting is a better financial option than buying a home. What would be your comments on that one?
No, no, sure. I've gotten that question many times, and I'll tell you, it's a very personal choice. As long as people have investment homes, there will be someone who is willing to rent. We all know the very simple equation or the math that the rental yields are far lower than the cost of capital. So, does it make sense to buy a home, right? All of that discussion does not take into account individual differences and personal preferences. As I said, home is an emotional asset. Some people just don't feel that emotion if they are in a rental home. So I'll keep that is one big aspect, by the way, for home ownership. But I'll keep that aside because once you have two, the real question is once you have two children, do you want to be shifting homes every 3 years? They go to a certain school, they have certain friends, right? So those are the quality of life issues and personal choices that people have to make. But if you look at it mathematically, it always at that point in time makes sense that renting is cheaper than purchasing a home, right? But if you look at historically, people have created wealth through real estate as well, through real estate ownership. So what it doesn't take into account is the possible capital appreciation that may come through, buying a home at the right place at the right time. We've seen consumers who bought, let's say, in Kandivali and in 2012 or 13, and we've seen a appreciation of almost 1.5, 1.6, 1.7 times on the investment, which also should be added in the economic analysis. But having said that, it's a very personal choice. The other side, the way to think about it is, if people don't buy homes, who are you going to rent it from, right? So it's a big enough market where people will make their choices and decisions based on where they are in their life at that point in time, right? um,
Mm.
if you are not sure you're going to live in Bangalore for the next 10 years of your life and you're just here to learn something and you were always in Delhi, you will never buy, you'll rent in Bangalore, right? So it's very, very personal and specific situations. But my last answer always on this is, who will you rent from if people don't buy a home, right?
Fair enough. We are having another question from the public, and this one is basically asking, okay, so Mumbai is having a lot of skyscrapers, right? So in such a case, now we are seeing that the city is entirely developing vertically. Earlier, cities like Delhi are still, they have a four-story limitation across the city, but Mumbai is not one of them. So what is the top demands that you see that home buyers are having? I mean, this person wants to know that since they are considering, they're in the process of buying, and they're too confused because developers are offering a lot of glam.
No, I think it can be a very daunting task. It can be very confusing when you are making a choice when buying a new home. It requires you to do a little bit of research, be very clear about what you are looking for, right? Let's say I tell you, oh, there's a, this is the development, and I will have a jacuzzi here, and I'll have, these three spas, and if that's not what you're looking for, you have to list out what you are really looking for in a product, right? And now once you go into a developer's office, and with all best intentions, they will market their product, and they built a certain product that may or may not be right for you. So you have to kind of compare it with what you are looking for, because you may go into a building with jacuzzis and springs and salons, and but that may not be something that you'll use ever in your life, right? But you got carried away at that point in time when you went to the sales office and someone made an excellent pitch to you, because those kind of things do not have necessarily have a bearing on the fact that you may be paying a higher price for a product like that, because all of that costs to build. Even the maintenance of some of those things is a recurring thing, and if you have more facilities, if you have more fancy amenities, then you will have a maintenance cost as a society, and that will be passed on to the consumers, right? So you have to decide what is your need first. What is the basic minimum that you need in amenities, or I need a lot more amenities because my kids are in 9 years old, 10 years old, etc. And then accordingly make a choice, because that's how you'll be able to pick the right product. Um, there are a lot of factors, and you have all kinds of consumers. So you have to be sure that these are the things I'm looking for, and these are the things this product is offering, and this will be the maintenance costs. You have to check that out with the developer. What are the possible maintenance costs? Do these amenities work for me or not? The second thing is, does this location work for me, right? Sometimes you get carried over and you see a beautiful project at a further location, but let's say your workplace. So you have to balance out all your needs vis-a-vis your personal as well as professional as well as future need situation, and that is a little bit of a rigor that you need to apply when you are buying a new home. But once you do that, it becomes a lot easier in terms of evaluating from the various options that are available in the market.
Wonderful. I think that should be it. Thank you so much, Jesal, for joining us for this month's Home Buyers Connect webinar. I'll just
Sure.
end by saying that at Home Capital we have the down payment assistance program, which is serving tier one, tier two markets very well, and we also have Home Next, which is a fully digital home loan application process. That means that it's almost paperless. It's much more faster. You don't even have to visit any branch with a huge stack of documents. So it's another revolutionary thing that we're constantly building upon. And the third is Bharat Housing Network, which is focused on the affordable housing segment, and we're trying to make as deep inroads as possible, trying to leverage technology, make our credit and underwriting processes much more faster, so that capital can be deployed as quickly as possible in new regions. So I'll end the call now. It was really great having you, Jason. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much, Shivam, and all the best to you and Home Capital. And I'm sure we'll be working together in the industry. We actually are. For example, in some of the developers, especially Dosti, we are jointly campaigning with them and helping their customers to find solutions for acquiring a new home. So great. Thanks for having me over.
No problem. And to all the viewers, and thanks to all our viewers who joined us for this webinar series. Don't forget to hit the subscribe or follow button. Depends on which platform you're streaming this on. But we'll be back again next month with a brand new speaker, and we will be focusing on taxes since March 31st is coming. So stay tuned.
Thanks, Shivam.
Thank you. Bye bye.